it ceases to become yours. It becomes everybody's. It's there for everybody, and I think you get to know it so well that, in a way, it's a done deal. You've given it everything, and you don't need to really listen back. As I said, I very rarely listen back, but when I do, I suppose it's a mixture of pride, embarrassment. Sometimes you hear things that you wish you'd have done different, but overall I'm very proud of the work I did with the ELP, especially the early records.
And one of the really interesting things for, and I think a lot of it had to do with the time period. People were were more open to listening to perhaps a greater variety of their rock music, if you don't mind me using the term rock. But
not at all.
ELP were one of those bands that clearly weren't out there going, okay, how can we create this song so that it'll get radio play? Or how can we get this to be accepted by person X or person Y? Clearly, you guys were making music because you enjoyed making music.
It's an interesting point you make. Often the word progressive is used in the context of ELP. And I really don't like the word progressive because it sounds elitist. And it sounds somehow, I don't know, there's a smart-ass element to it, which I don't like. But what we did set out to do is we wanted to be different. The word that really applies is original. Originality was what we were striving for. And the one thing we did was, instead of looking to most rock music prior to ELP, drew upon American roots for its inspiration. The blues, jazz, gospel, Motown, country and western. And we decided to try and draw more on European music. And I think that was the difference. It made a broader palette of colors. It didn't have to be 4 beats to the bar, 8 bars to a verse. We tried to make it unusual. And in that sense, I think we were different. I mean, after ELP, so many bands started to incorporate European influences. Before ELP, almost none.
Yeah.
And that's the way I think we changed the course of, and I like the term rock music because I think that's what it is. It's a different kind of rock music, but to me, it's rock music.
Yeah, I agree, but I'm also very aware that, in general, artists don't care for labels. Part of being an artist is doing your thing and not worrying about what a label is,
Well, they don't like being put in boxes. None of us do. But
yeah.
The truth is that that's what people do. They need to define it some way. And fair enough. I don't lose sleep at night over it, but I just don't like the word progressive. It just does sound smarter, elitist, cleverer, which it's not. It's just a different approach.
Yeah. So according to, I don't know, a handful of things that I've read on the internet, which you never can fully believe those things, but
no.
Lucky Man came to you when you were but a teenager?
I was actually 12 when I wrote it.
12?
Yeah, it was the first thing I ever wrote when I started playing guitar. I'd learnt these first 4 chords. Those are the chords in Lucky Man, basically. And it was, I think, there was 2 things, looking back on it, which probably caused me to write it. One was that I felt very lucky that my mum had just bought me a guitar. I wanted a guitar desperately. And I said, it was coming up to Christmas, and she said to me, what do you want for Christmas? I'd like a guitar. So she said, no, because we didn't have any money. We were, poor as a church mouse. And so that was that. However, on Christmas Day, there it was,